You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 201.
I mean, you have to have some trust there. You do, because it can be scary as fuck. You know what I mean? Truly. Meaning you've got to put faith in other people that you don't even know. Like, you've never met them face to face. Like, you can know somebody over a phone call and stuff, but if you've never looked them in their eye and shook their hand, like, take you and I, for example.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazzari.
And I am Bennett Tanton.
And this is episode 201 of Change Your POV, 2017 recap and 2018 predictions. I'm looking forward to this one. How about you, Bennett?
2018 predictions.
Yes.
Holy Christ.
I think it's fun to do the predictions because we did something similar to this last year at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and in which we actually recorded like a couple shows. The first show was episode 136, and then the other one was episode 140. So 136 was like I think we did like a top three episodes of that year.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about what we thought 2017 was going to have in store for us. Man, we were so fucking wrong.
So wrong.
We were off a little bit.
Aren't you? A little bit. I mean, I think we actually did more than we had predicted.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It just was different.
Right. I agree.
That's all.
Yeah.
Because we got thrown a curveball.
That was before the whole network. That was before we knew Jeff, before Dwayne, before Kevin, before Andrew, before all of it, right?
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Crazy.
We had no idea.
And then all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So the layout for this show, what we're going to do is Ben and I are going to talk about the 3 or 4 things that stand out in our minds. Well, we'll each have 3 or 4 things that we'll talk about that stand out in our mind that happened in 2017. And then we're each going to share our 3 top favorite downloads, or not downloads, but our 3 top episodes of 2017, which was a tall order given the fact that there was over 190 episodes released in 2017. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think we're at the earlier episodes are at a disadvantage,
right?
Because we don't. Well, what the fuck do you remember 200 episodes ago?
Right, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Oh
what
shit!
The fuck?
Yeah.
But you know, and we're not doing it unless we're scrolling through a
exactly. Yeah. Thing. Yep. Which I do on occasion. I'll go to changeyourpv.com and I'll go through each of the different show pages and just kind of scroll through and be like, oh yes, I remember. Oh God, yes, I remember. It's fun to kind of go back and listen to some of these older shows, though. You know. For
sure. Oh yeah. I told you last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up with our predictions for 2018, and then at the end of 2018, we'll look back and see how accurate we were this year, right? That's gonna be fun. All right, let's start this off, man. So 3 or 4 things that stand out in my mind in 2017. I'll go first, and then you can share yours. So the first thing that really stands out in my mind, and we've already kind of alluded to it, was the fact that we now have a network, and that was something we didn't see at the beginning of 2017. At least I didn't see it coming. It wasn't something that we were looking for or trying to do, or nothing we even really discussed or talked about. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't a plan. It just kind of fell into place accidentally. And I was just amazed at how quickly we were able to actually fill so many shows in such a short period of time. And
well, frankly, there's other people that want to do shows too,
right?
But it's like you kind of gotta kind of be like, yeah, no,
yeah. So that'll get into our predictions for 2018. That's going to be one of mine. I'll get into that later. But number 2 that stands out in my mind in 2017 is you and I have talked, quite at length about my converting military experience into civilian terminology using the peak and valley method, right?
Yes.
And I've done, I've discussed that many times with individuals on Veterati. You and I have discussed it, But in 2017, I actually had an opportunity to host the networking event workshop for Southern New Hampshire University. That was it was an hour-long workshop prior to a networking dinner, and actually put that together and presented the Converting Military Experience into Civilian Terminology workshop to a whole. I think there was like 18 student veterans, so I was able to pitch it to a group of people all at one time. And it was the first time I had a chance to do that in a larger group setting, because I know how it lands on an individual basis, but I didn't know how it was going to land in a group setting. And it was amazing. I got the exact reaction out of the group as I do when I give this workshop to individuals, which is at the end it's complete awe and epiphany moments, right, all around the table.
Yeah, you're like, holy fuck!
Like just to see everybody's looks on their faces, like it's like when you discover something that's been there all along and you just didn't know it was there, and you finally discover it. You're like, oh my god! Right?
I might actually be a badass.
Right? Yeah. So that was the second thing that really stands out in my mind for 2017. I was really excited about. Number 3 is the introduction, or I would say that the concepts of these one-off or standalone series that we've kind of started to develop. Again, it wasn't anything we really kind of planned for. It just kind of fell into place. We got the 444 series, which is a series, and Bennett, you're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's a series based off of the the mini-series on National Geographic, The Long Road Home, which I was a part of that battle. So it's really close to my heart, and I created a Facebook group and started to interview, soldiers and family members of those that served during that time. And it just really kind of took on a life of its own. It's really awesome. But we also now have, here pretty soon, we have the release of Lessons Learned with the Band of Brothers. And we got some more incredible series, like I said, one-off standalone series that'll be releasing on Change Your POV Podcast Network, which I'm really, really excited about. And then fourth, and my last one that really stands out in my mind, is just the amount of growth, impact, and reach to so many different veteran segments that we've been able to get in front of in 2017. I think 2016 and before that, I think we started the very end of 2015, so we're barely 2 years in, a little over 2 years into this now, but the amount of reach and impact and growth in the veteran community now is so much greater than it was when we first started, which is awesome to see, because that was essentially, that was the the goal when we started this whole thing.
Yeah, it feels like it's about 20 years, not 2.
I know, right? It does.
So I'm going to piggyback off your number 3 as my number 1, just to kind of expand on it, is that these like one-off series, I think the thing that shocks me the most is that we actually have like the self-learn, because we haven't taken any courses. We haven't this is all shit that we've learned on our own as we've gone along, and then taught to like Jeff and Dwayne and Andrew. And Kevin was already ahead of the other, the curve with this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're able to make, actually use like real editing skills and artwork and all this stuff because of the experience that we've gained, right?
Yeah.
To do these series and make it so there's like real production value to it with music and overlays and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that to me is really cool. How we're able to kind of get there, how we've gotten there, and now that we're doing it. And it's just going to get better.
Yeah, and it's the little things too that maybe the listeners don't see, because it's kind of like it's like when you write a paper for college, right? You have 3 or 4 drafts before you actually submit your final. Well, the instructor only really sees your final, but they don't see all the work behind the scenes and the 4 previous drafts that went into making that final production.
Yeah,
and
the pages that got thrown out,
right,
rewritten, and
the podcasting space is no different. I'll take Dwayne's series veteran mental health boot camp that he just released the last 14 episodes at the end of the year, which was amazing.
13 episodes total. And I think he had figured it out, something like 28 hours of work. Like, it's not just the sitting down and recording part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm saying like 27 hours of actual like recording stuff.
So his total released is like 12 hours, like a little over 12 hours worth of released content. But yeah, you gotta figure it's at least triple that in the post production and then putting everything together, and even things like when he was coming up with the intro.
Not to mention the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, to schedule everything and reschedule things when guests, life happens.
Break it down into hours of actual time spent.
Right.
It's probably, weeks.
Oh yeah. He put a lot of time in it. And it shows though, because it's just an incredible series. I'm really excited that we now have that standalone series as a resource, as a reference point.
Veteran mental health.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And I like his intro. He was working on his intro when he first was putting it together, and he did the recording and sent it to all of us on Slack, and we all kind of listened to it. And we all offered kind of some feedback and said, it would be cool if you did this, if you change this up a little bit, and he did, and he took some of the advice and kind of restructured a little bit. And I think we've all benefited by having a larger team, right? You and I used to bounce ideas off of each other all the time, and we still do. But now we've got 6 people, basically. 6 different sets of eyes and sets of ears.
It's good.
It is. It's really good. It really forces us to up our game and keep it growing, right?
Yeah. So I think that's my number 1.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2 that stands out in my mind about 2017 is that I've got a real big ass business coming into play here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a whole lot to do with Change Your POV, but it influences our work in life. And that's with Battle Sight. It's just like surreal. You know what I mean? Because I've had other businesses, of course, and it's great, but this is like the real deal impact kind of business,
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to get to the other side of that and then see how it having actual because here we are with us is our time is our currency with this shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have our own expenses with Change Your POV, but what can we do if we have real money?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm like looking forward to. So that's going to be I'll go into more of that with like with our predictions for 2018.
Yeah, man.
So that's something that stands out in my mind is just how quickly things change.
Right.
And just like totally change.
And that's another thing that you didn't even have sight into in 2016,
Fuck no. And I'm not even until, July of 2017.
Right.
Halfway through the year, I get a phone call and it's like, holy fuck.
But you know what? You know where it all started? Is
from Change Your POV.
Yeah, we interviewed Nick Riplinger, right? Yep. And it just and that's what's so amazing about this show is we get to not only interview these guests, but we get an opportunity to build relationships with them. Not all of them, and in some more than others, the relationships grow. I mean, it's reciprocal, right? I mean,
right.
It takes two.
That's
but
kind of where my third thing rolls in.
Okay.
Before you go down that rabbit hole, because we'll go down the rabbit hole now.
Okay.
The third thing is that I really impacted me during 2017 is you truly get I mean, you and I have talked about this many times, but it just was completely solidified. And I don't think people take as much advantage of it as they can or should, is the networking power of the internet.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, you have to have some trust there. You do. Because it can be scary as fuck. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Truly. meaning you've got to put faith in other people that you don't even know. Like, you've never met them face to face. Like, you can know somebody over a phone call and stuff, but if you've never looked them in their eye and shook their hand, like, take you and I, for example, that shit happened with Nick this year too. And how many times does it happen to you or I every day?
Right.
Frankly, almost every fucking day, especially when we interview new people. And the next thing you know, you've got a relationship on the other side of that, like Jeff. We've never met Jeff face to face.
Nope. Or Dwayne. Or Kevin. I haven't.
Yeah, I have. And we've both met Andrew, obviously. But that's some crazy shit that you were actually, you know, so it's just, you know, and I don't have a lot of words to describe all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, you know, trust in other people enough to just let them in the door enough to show you what they do and what they've got. And, you know, well, sometimes I think sometimes it really does work. Sometimes it doesn't.
It does.
But a lot of times it really does. And I think you have to take with the good with the bad with that too. But
I think it's a real testament to us eating our own dog food, right? Because, you know, we're on the show all the time. We're talking about the importance of networking. We talk about the importance of LinkedIn profiles and networking and how social media, you know, can build in self-branding. We talk about that. And there's like, we talk about all these things all the time, but we do more than just talk about it. We actually do what we recommend. And because of that, we've yielded some incredible things from it. Like you know, the job that I have now, I love my job that I have now, and it was all thanks to my LinkedIn profile. I was approached by a recruiter that happened to find me on LinkedIn and I had all the qualifications and experiences and skill sets they were looking for this particular position, and I was brought in and did an interview and, you know, got hired. And it was all...
Yeah, and happened fast as shit, too.
4 days, bro. 4 days from the time I was approached by the recruiter to the time I was extended an offer was 4 days.
Yeah, because I just remember you being like, you know, I mean, you weren't happy. You weren't like wanting to kill yourself or anything either, but you weren't happy where you were at. And it was just like, you weren't really looking either. I mean, you were, but you weren't.
Oh, well, yeah,
and then the next thing you know, it's like, boom.
Yep.
Just slapped you in the face.
Yeah, it did, man. And
and you're like, hey, I've got an offer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck, bro.
Right. And it's all because we do what we preach. We do what we recommend. And, you know, networking is no different. I mean, if it wasn't for, you know, us eating our own dog food, like I said, you know, you wouldn't probably have the opportunity with BattleSight that you have today. We definitely wouldn't have this network that we've built. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show you that, you know, but here's the thing. You can listen to all the recommendations you want in the world, but if you don't put action to words, then it's just words, right? You've got to put the shit in action.
What I was going to say is that if you don't execute on that decision,
right,
and you just like dip your toe in, shit's not going to work.
Right.
I mean, it could, I guess, but in my experience and yours as well, you just kind of got to go all in, and just take the plunge. And you know what? Frankly, folks, if it doesn't work, who gives a fuck? Move on to the next thing. I mean, it's not, I mean, unless you're investing thousands of dollars and shit, I mean, that can sting. And maybe you know, have somebody that you think is a friend and you lose that friend. I mean, that does happen, shit like that. But that's not the norm, at least not in I guess that's a mindset, right, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And
when it comes down to it, is you kind of accept what is really happeing, and saying, you know, whatever happens.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Part of building a good network for yourself is the ability to let go of relationships too, right? I think that's
how many times have we gotten into business with folks,
right?
And it just didn't work out. But you know what? Too is not burning that bridge,
right? Absolutely.
Not because even though you're not doing steady business doesn't mean that it's not cyclical, because it is,
right?
And there's plenty of people that I still am in contact with that we still help each other out.
Sure.
We still give each other contacts and everything else. And, they're my friends at the end of the day, I guess is what it really comes down to.
Right.
Is, they might only be acquaintances, but I'd still do more for them than somebody I don't know.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's all I guess I'm getting at.
Yeah, man. Very cool.
And then the third thing for me is it's been a year now because I don't remember if I think that I did the other episodes. Had I moved yet?
When? In 2017?
Had I moved from Delaware yet when we did those last episodes? Basically, 2017's been new for me because I'm back in New York.
Yeah, I think it was the beginning. Well, when did you move?
I guess it was freaking January.
Oh, wow. It was that long ago already?
Yeah. Well, we got into this new house in January.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been a change. Just being a homeowner again and freaking just being like adulting.
Yeah.
Huge change because I basically had gotten to a point where I was like, yeah, I wanted to run like James Altucher and be like, yeah, I'm going to Airbnb the rest of my fucking life.
Right. Right.
Or I'm going to rent because owning sucks balls. And look at me now. I'm back owning a home. Now I have tasked out some of the work, like mowing and all that shit because I don't have time. And is it expensive? Yes. But it's worth it. So, yeah, man, just stuff like that. My family is growing quickly.
You got another one on the way, right?
No, fuck you. Hell
Start that rumor right now.
Bennett's having another kid.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Nope, I am sterile, my friend. I had to have them bad boys clipped. But anyway, yeah, man.
Nice. All right, now we're going to transition into our top 3 favorite episodes in 2017 and why. And man, we did this last year and it was hard. It's even harder now. And I think every year we do this, it's just going to get harder and harder. But so many great episodes with so many great guests. And we open it up to every show, regardless of who the host was or who the guest was. We're not talking about just Change Your POV, our flagship show. We're talking about any show released on the network is up for grabs. So my first one, and these aren't in no particular order. There's just the ones that came to mind first. So the first one is it's BLK 006, and BLK is the naming convention for Black Sunday, which is the 444 series. And the title of BLK 006 is Suicide, the Hidden War, and the Aftershock it leaves with SYLVIA MACIAS. And SYLVIA was an amazing guest. Her oldest son died on April 4, 2004 in Baghdad. And you could see basically the betrayal of him and in his death on The Long Road Home, that miniseries on National Geographic. And her youngest son, a few years later, committed suicide. He was a Marine. And she wanted to come on and talk about the death of her youngest son, Jeremy, and the impact that suicide has on the family members and friends left behind. And that was for me one of my favorite shows because the level and amount of strength that it took for her to share that story, to be open and vulnerable, was truly inspiring. It was incredibly courageous, and I just can't thank her enough for sharing that story. It's more than just a story, right? It's her life, it's her children, and my God, I got 2 kids of my own. I can't imagine losing one, let alone 2. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, I highly recommend you do. Just go to changeyourpv.com, and at the top you'll see where it says podcast. Click on the 444 series and look for BLK 006. That's definitely one of my favorite 2017 definitely didn't see that one coming. Glad we were able to get Sylvia on and talk about that. The second one was BTC006. BTC, of course, is Behind the Curtain. So, again, you can go to changeyourpv.com at the top, click on podcast, and look for the Behind the Curtain series. And this one, BTC006, is titled The Letter in the Locker. This one is special to me for many, many reasons. This was probably the most intensive post-editing podcast episode that I've ever done since I began this journey. It was a collection. I interviewed almost 13 hours worth of interviewing different guests, different people, and put it all together into a montage episode that told a story from start to end. And I wanted to do this story for two reasons. One, because it shares a story that's very close and sensitive to me. It impacts me as a father. And number two, it also, well, there's three reasons. Number two, it also talks about another thing that impacts me greatly, and that's veteran suicide. And then the third one, the reason I wanted to do it is because when I first started that project, and I call it a project because it took me several weeks to put it all together, many, many hours. And the reason why I wanted to do that is I said to myself when I started, if time and money was not a factor, what type of podcast episode would I want to release every single week? And so that was the kind of the bar that I set for myself when I created that show. If money and time were not a factor, that would be the caliber of show that I would want to release consistently. Unfortunately, time and money is a factor, and I don't have the bandwidth to release a heavily produced show like that. Maybe that'll be something that I do once or twice a year. At least that's my goal for 2018, is to do a couple of those, because it is so time consuming. And you know, when people listen to a show, oftentimes we've already talked about it, they don't realize the amount of work that goes into it. And some shows, you know, it's unedited, it's unmixed. You literally record it, you throw a bumper on the front and the back, and you release it, and you're done, right?
How many times does that happen?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're spending hours and hours and hours like this one. But the listener doesn't really see the complexity that goes into those shows. So
or the difference,
right? Or the difference, right? And my third one is HST018, which is Headspace and Timing 018, and the title of that is Theater of War with Bryan, Doerries, and that was that episode completely took me by surprise. I don't know a better way of saying it. I was listening to it on my way into work, as I do most of the shows. And that's what's incredible about the network now, is I can literally listen to our own podcast as the shows release and be the first time that we listen to these shows. You know what I mean? It's like listening to any other podcast. You don't know what's coming out next, and we can do that with our own show now.
Which is like kind of what I was talking about earlier, is that we've got, you know, people that are competent enough to be able to show them how to do the work, and they jump right on it and do it. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
right. So we're not listening to these shows ahead of time. We're listening to them as they release. Yeah. Yeah. And the show, by the time I got to work, dude, I was a blubbering idiot, dude. I was crying. It had such an impact on me. And I ended up calling Dwayne as I'm walking into the building, like sniffling, and I just told him, thanks for that show. It really hit home. It meant a lot to me. And I don't know if it was, you know, the content overall, or if it was just a place in my mind that I was at the time. I don't know, but it really had an impact on me. I just remember telling him it was by far my favorite episode that he's released on Headspace and Timing. And that probably still holds true today. Although the series that he just released, the Veteran Mental Health Bootcamp series, was incredible overall, but I really still enjoy the Theater of War with Bryan, Doerries. That's HST018. So those are my three: BLK006, Suicide, The Hidden War on the Aftershock It Leaves with SYLVIA MACIAS, BTC006, The Letter in the Locker, and then the HST018, The Theater of War with Bryan, Doerries. So those are my three, man.
So my three are the Attack 203, ATT 203, Finding Your New Mission. And that's usually that's you and I that do that series, but Jeff had done like a talk show or something?
It was a radio interview in
Fayetteville. Yeah. Good Morning Fayetteville.
Right.
Good morning, Vietnam. That's Vietnam. But anyway, so what it is, I think that it steps out for me is from that episode is well, doing episodes with Jeff is always a story, always fun, always a little crazy because he's just a piece of work. Mm-hmm. But I love when I talk about finding your passion, and we talk about steps to finding your passion. And I feel like this is one of those big things that if veterans getting out and transitioning could just find that one thing or a thing that they're passionate about, mm-hmm. that new mission, it makes transition easier.
Right.
Because it's if nothing else, it's a distraction, and it just gives you that new mission. Get on mission, write a 5-paragraph order, and freaking go attack whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what this episode basically is about. And I every time that's really where my passion lies, is to help guys and gals find their new mission when they get out, because without that mission, you're kind of floundering, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And you can have a family and all these other things, but if you don't see your family as like protecting and taking care of your family as your mission, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And because that's not always the case. You think that's intuitive, but a lot of times it's not, because guys or gals are so wrapped up in their own bullshit that they can't look outside of it, right? So that's the key, is to get them outside of their space in their own body and head to get out there and find their passion. That's why that episode really reigns true with me.
And the other thing too is, if you can't find it, make it, right?
Right. Correct.
And that's why I created Change Your POV, is because I searched high and low for that, and I could not find it I couldn't find it in anything around me. I couldn't find it in the work that I was doing. And I knew I needed it. I just didn't know where to find it, and I couldn't find it. I said, so instead of sitting down and wallowing, and
it's because you live in the middle of the woods.
I know, you're right. I created it, and this is my passion, and it has been and continues to be. And yeah, man. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So then the second episode is actually 2 episodes. It's the Changing Hearts and Minds 002 and 00, I think it's 6. Might need to check on that. It's the Overexposed episodes.
Yep.
With Jeff Adamek and Jeff Dardia from Task Force Stagger and the SOF Health Initiatives. And it just hit me because I have a lot of friends that are still in like the special operations community, and to kind of get their task a lot, or their take on a lot of these things, because a lot of the times you get these guys, they're the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
Debatable in a lot of people's minds, but I say bullshit, because they wouldn't be where they're at unless they were. So go get fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's across all services: Special Forces, MARSOC, SEALs, pararescue, TACPs, all of them. They have a tendency to not admit when they have issues. And they also play that quiet professional card.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some guys that are out there talking about real fucking problems that, and frankly, at the end of the day, we talk about them leading from the front, right?
Yep.
That community leading from the front. They need to do that as veterans as well,
right?
Frankly.
Yep.
I mean, they should. It doesn't mean that they have to. But if they're leading from the front during service, why wouldn't they lead from the front out of service? And I think that mental health wise and injury wise, TBI, PTSD, substance use, these are all things that a lot of them go through And if they would just talk about it, I think it would totally enhance and enrich the rest of the veteran community to be like, oh my God, if those guys are having the problem, then it's okay for me to admit that I am too.
Yeah, and it's these guys are the guys that regular conventional military guys look up to, right?
Yeah, they're the snake eaters, man. The fucking, I mean, like, operators.
And they should be.
Like, it's like we laugh and it's a joke. I just want to operate.
Yeah.
But like these are the guys that do that shit.
And they should be the same guys that the veterans look up to outside of the military, and look up to them because they are, like you said, leading the way. And I'm not saying look up to them because they're all authoring their own, hua rock hard tip of the spear book or creating movies, but doing things like what Jeff Darty is doing and talking about.
Yeah, and guys like Andrew Marr at the Angel Warrior Foundation, and guys like that are really like putting themselves out there and being like, listen, yes, I was an alcoholic. I was a fucking drug addict. I was this, I was that, all because of shit that happened to me in service, and them going, that's not me. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not how I operate.
Right.
And them getting a handle on that and going, well, here's how I did it.
Yep.
So that's Overexposed. Well, so that's pretty awesome.
I checked really quick. So it's CHM002 Overexposed, and then the second part was CHM006 Overexposed 2, The Trouble with Hormones. Yeah.
Right. And I would also encourage you to go, and I'm going to plug because it's not like it gets us anything, but at the end of the day, Eddie and I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
And I don't frankly remember the number of it, but it's like one of the last 3 Joe Rogan podcasts. Andrew Marr and Dr. Mark Gordon were on the hell is it? Joe Rogan Experience. And it's one, I think it was like 3 episodes ago. Go listen to it. If you're a guy a gal that's having issues, especially specifically with TBI stuff, go listen to that episode and go get some help, man. It's an amazing, Andrew runs an amazing organization, and so does Dr. Gordon. Like, they are helping guys and gals do shit, like people that were told that they'd never walk again because of their neurological damage, and they're walking.
Right.
That type of miracle shit. Okay. So that's what, like, Task Force Dagger, that's Jeff is doing stuff like that there, as well as Andrew with the Warrior Angels. So just go check that stuff out. This is a public service announcement.
There you go.
And plugging another podcast, but whatever. And then the last one for me is just, it's kind of epic, Eddie. It's your 444. It's the whole, how many episodes have you put out now? 10, 11, I think.
Let me check. That's a good question. There's more to release. I ended up taking a break during the last 2 weeks of December because of Dwayne's series. I didn't want to release on top of his, but yeah. So right now there's 9 episodes released.
Okay, and just freaking awesome. I mean, and if you want to know about, like, it's very historical, but it also talks about the issues. Like, I really did like the, oh my God, which one was it? Oh, the one with James
Vanny?
No, starts with an F. Jay Fondren.
Oh, Jay Fondren. Yeah, that was the very first one.
So again, find your purpose, right?
Yep.
And it's that type of stuff is just cool. I love it. And the fact that this is all kind of like, it was just funny because you saw that the book, it all goes back to the book, and then it all goes back to April 4th, 2004. And now the National Geographic series, which you can say you like or you don't, who gives a fuck? It tells a story that's real.
Yeah.
Now, did they take license or, creative license in spaces? Of course they do. Right.
Yep.
You can't say every single piece of that is freaking 100%. You just can't.
Right.
But what movie or story ever is. No shit. There I was. Every fucking story's got some embellishment or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But at the core of it, it's a great series. And so is this podcast series. So this is telling the real story, the real side of all that shit from guys and family members that were there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So the family members weren't there, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're getting that side of it too. And it's just great. When you started doing it, I was like, oh, this is going to be badass. So
I appreciate it, man. A lot of work went into it, but it's it definitely took on a life of its own.
Still going.
Oh, it's still going.
It's still going.
Oh yeah, the series on National Geographic is over, but the group still exists, and I'm still doing. As a matter of fact, I just got 2 days ago another notification on my Calendly that somebody else booked an interview on January 4th to be interviewed. So there's a lot more people wanting to come out, and what's amazing is a lot of these guys that I talk to, either in the group or interview for the series, a lot of them, this is the first time. Now remember, this was back on April 4th, 2004. It's now,
13 years later.
13 years later, and for a lot of these guys, this is the first time they've really talked about that experience, which I think is what makes this such a compelling series to do, is because I get in there and I ask some difficult questions, and I get a lot of very emotional responses, and I'm not editing any of that out. I want.
And how many times have you already told me of responses that you've got from folks that you interviewed?
Oh yeah,
that literally came back to you and were like, bro, you've helped me get past this shit.
Right.
Like that's why we do this, folks. Yep. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Actually, that's the shit that makes this worthwhile. And whether we have 2,000 listens or 200,000 listens, this is why we do this. It's like that round of golf.
Right.
We all suck at fucking golf, right? But there's that one shot. And getting phone calls or messages like that's that one shot where you're making a difference.
Yep.
And it just, it's not the best analogy, but anyway.
No, it's good. I liked it.
That's why we do these fucking things. And you know what? There's going to be more to come of that shit.
Yeah.
Just because, and even if we weren't at a battle, let's say, I mean, we've talked about covering things like Fallujah, Ramadi, you had brought up another one and I can't read. Oh, like things like even like Haditha Dam and things like that, which have got there are some precedents to that where they've talked about it on TV. So that always, and this is one of the reasons like Jeff jumped on Band of Brothers, because you've got these guys telling their story. Right. And then we go with leadership lessons from that. Yeah. Well, we're going to do the same. I don't know. Are we rolling into not predictions, but kind of like what's going to happen this year?
Yeah, let's roll into predictions. So the last segment for 2018, I'll let you start this one, Bennett.
So predictions of what I guess we're going to try to accomplish.
Yeah. Either in this
or what we are going to accomplish.
And this could be personal or network specific. It doesn't have to be just.
So I have two big series, like we've been talking about series, that I want to produce in 2018. And they are going to be healthy freaking undertakings. And I've already started on both, frankly, just with little things here and there, getting stuff like intros, and it just gets the creative juices flowing. Right. So what the first one is going to be the impact. It's not necessarily, there's no distinct order, but I'm just saying the first one I'm going to talk about is talking about the marijuana in the veteran community. Basically is what it comes down to, but it's actually, that was the original thing. So it's kind of going to get rolled into not just marijuana, but alternative therapies is kind of where we're going. So mainly though, marijuana and like psychedelics. So that's kind of what it's going to be about, and how it helps, how it can hurt, and how it's not for everyone. But I want to get both sides of the anti folks and the for folks and get a real good civil discourse on about it and let you make your own decisions, right?
You mean you can have people with differing opinions and actually have an intelligent conversation?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
You can, for sure. It doesn't always seem like that,
Right.
especially on social media, but yes. So that's the first one for me. And then the second one is going to be it's going to be tied into Band of Brothers to an extent, but it's going to be on Pacific. And because I am a Marine and the Pacific is all about Marines, basically. I mean, there's a little Army interjected, but it's 99% Marine Corps.
Well, that's perfect for you then.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like you. It's a Marine wearing an Army uniform.
Right. Correct. A little touch of Army.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a Band of Brothers leadership lessons-esque type show or series on Pacific as well. So we'll talk about guys like Justy Polar and John Basilone and there's some others too.
Hell yes.
So it's going to be badass. And of course we have a million other ideas, but those are two that I know I'm going to accomplish and get done.
Awesome.
So.
Looking forward to both of those.
And what was the third thing, Eddie?
The third prediction?
Yeah, I had already kind of alluded to it, and then, damn it.
Oh, I think you were talking about another show. Was that it?
No. Yeah, it was, but I don't remember why. Oh, maybe it was because Anyway, those are my two big
All right.
predictions,
Well,
at least for our show.
I'll do mine, and then you keep thinking. It'll come to you. And you can tag on your last one.
Damn.
So I've got a couple here. So I've got a prediction for 2018 that we'll have at least 2 more show hosts have their own shows by the end of 2018.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, and again, these are just predictions. These aren't because I'm in conversations with anybody right now. I'm not. But I'm thinking one will either be Navy and or the other will be a female veteran. So those are my predictions. We'll see if they come to pass. We'll find out a year from now when we're sitting down doing a look back on 2018 and see how accurate we are.
A Navy veteran and a female.
Yeah.
Well, what if it's both? What if that one person is both?
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
Maybe. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm right, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like that. I like that prediction.
Yeah,
That's a good
kind of round out the network a little bit, right?
because we got everything outside. The only other thing that we need is a token coastie.
Yeah, right?
Those are hard. Those are like unicorns almost.
They are. You're right.
It's hard to find those guys. I mean, I think I know of one coastie who's got his own podcast.
Right, yeah.
Who is that?
That's Collier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good podcast too. It's not just some shit podcast. Right. It's actually a really good podcast.
Yeah, we had him on as a guest.
Yeah.
And great guy. I think he's retiring soon. And
yeah.
He would have been my pick for the Token Coastie podcast show. He
is the unicorn.
But he's already got his own show. I was like, oh, okay.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's good. I think we kind of helped him along that path, though. We've influenced a lot of, believe it or not, Bennett, we've influenced a lot of people to start their own podcasts.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. But we're not ones to take credit for shit.
No. Some people have said, "Ooh, I'd like to do that," and then they do nothing with it. But then there are other people that are like, "I'd like to do that," and they actually do, and then reach back.
Yeah, or like, "Hey, man, let's give this a try. Why not? Yeah. Let's go." I mean, I've had that conversation with a dozen people at least, and I do know of like 3 or 4 of them that had started it. So yeah, pretty cool. Or gotten back into it.
My number 2 prediction is that we're going to have some legit sponsors as part of the network, part of the family in the 2018. One for sure that I know of. We're still laying the groundwork for that, and got some more potentials coming. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to change a little bit of our content because we'll have some sponsor spots, either at the beginning or at the end or both of our shows, which will change up a little bit. But it's necessary to keep us growing. I mean, we can't continue. We want growth, right? We want to reach more people. We want to have more downloads. We want to keep creating content, but the bigger you get, the more expensive things become. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast, and so we need to find a way to monetize and bring in some money to help support everything that we're doing. And at the same time, we want to work with some incredible companies and organizations and sponsors out there that are doing great things themselves. So it's a way for us to present the work that they're doing and a way for them to kind of be a part of what we're doing at the same time. So we're excited about that. More to follow on that. We'll see how that turns out. Number 3, my prediction, and this is not just a prediction, I think we're going to actually see some results on this one, but to grow our library of series shows. I really like, because when you first start a podcast, right, it's all about trying to get the numbers, right? Because the more number of episodes, the higher number of episodes you have, and the more current content you're releasing, it plays well with the algorithms and search engines, and it keeps your show relevant, and it keeps people coming back and listening for more. But once we got to a certain point, and I think it was right around 200, I was like, to me, numbers really wasn't where it was at. I really liked this idea of coming up, because I think you and I have an affinity for the series. Help me out. My God.
Oh, Serial.
Serial, thank you. So Serial.
Well, Serial and everything like it. It's mostly everything that like NPR is doing.
Right. Yeah. So they come out with these.
Ira Glass.
Yeah. The Ira Glass series, and then so they come out with these, S-Town and all these like one-off. Now, obviously, they're highly produced. They take like a year to put together, and they're like 7 episodes or something like that.
Like real investigative journalism, right, and all this other shit. But the quality of the everything put together, is just ridiculous. And coming from that space, like people listen to it and gravitate to it, but they don't know why.
Right.
And it's because it's really high quality production value. And I think that's what we're trying to go for. Yeah. And that's why we do things. And I'll talk about this in my third.
Okay.
So keep going.
Yeah. So coming up with these series, and one, because this is something that you and I have mentioned many times, is we get into listening to these podcasts of different hosts, and it's just, they're great hosts, they have great guests, but it's like Groundhog Day. It's the same thing over and over and over. And I mean, they may be talking about a different topic or something, but the structure is the same, the mantra is the same. Like, it just becomes very monotonous. And
they have the same like 6 questions for every single person.
Yeah.
And it's like it's awesome. Like, I mean, you're adding value, you're doing good things, and you're talking to really cool people. But damn.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't know. I can only listen to it for blocks.
It's like,
so I'll listen to and I don't really want to call anybody out, but I was like, I'll listen to what the hell is his name? Like Lewis Howes.
Yeah.
I'll listen to him for 10 to 15 episodes, and then I'll have to not listen to him for like a month or two. Right. And then I'll switch. But what that allows me to do is peruse more content. So I'll move from like Lewis Howes, and then I'll listen to Mike Dillard for like 10 or 15 episodes. And then I'll move back to Lewis Howes, or I'll move on to like John Lee Dumas, or I'll move on to Pat Flynn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do the same.
So I'll still listen to everything, but I'm always behind in those podcasts because I just, after like 10 or 15 episodes, I'm like, holy fuck, man. It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Not always. And that's not really fair, but it is.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get, and you and I both feel that way. So,
well, it's like when you go to the state fair, like, how much cotton candy can you really have before you're like, oh my God, I'm so done with cotton candy?
How many gyros can I fucking eat
you just
in a week?
You're ready to move on to the giant pickle or to something else. You know what I mean?
The deep fried Snickers or whatever the fuck. Right.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
So that's the whole point of these series is, we both, you and I, Bennett, we both saw kind of our approach and our interviews and our episodes kind of going down the path of, more of the same kind of thing. And one, I started to see kind of our listenership drop off a little bit because it was probably around the time where I would have dropped off too if I was just a listener. And number two, as a host, like I found myself not really engaging anymore as much as I was at the beginning, and it started to be like, oh man, like I got to release another show this week.
It was becoming a chore.
It was, and I never wanted this to ever become a chore. I wanted it to be a passion and stay a passion. And so I was like, we got to change something here because I got to breathe new life into what I'm doing, right?
That's mainly the biggest reason I think we hit the network part.
Right.
We're like, well, why don't we do this?
Yep.
And frankly, it's kind of innovative. And we really need to do an episode like around the first of the year here pretty soon. Like I'd say maybe, I don't know, this coming week.
Okay.
Where we need to like lay out Barney style exactly what Change Your POV Podcast Network is about. Like what remember we're kind of schizophrenic. And our number, like if you go to our RSS feed, it's very schizophrenic. Yeah, but we don't need to go into that here. But some people get it and some people just don't.
Yeah.
So we need to like break it down Barney style for some people maybe. So they finally understand and go, oh, well, I won't listen on this day. I'll listen on this day.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. And we'll put it as like at the very beginning of the front page of the home of the website. And then people can like start here, click on the great big button, start here, listen to this. And then you'll
understand what the fucking craziness on our thing is about.
It's like when you get out there in the field, the first thing you got to do is get your bearings, right? Shoot your azimuth. Yeah. Do your GM angle conversion on your map, and figure out where you got to walk, and then start walking. Right,
plot your points.
Yeah, you got to plot your points. So I think that's a great idea, Ben. I think we'll do that. So that's why the series. That's why the series of shows. Not only that, but one of the things that's, I don't know if we call it a prediction or a goal, but one of the series that I plan on releasing in 2018. Is we're calling it the Transition Boot Camp. And so here's the reason why I want to briefly talk about this. I recently had somebody email me, somebody that I served with when I was in Iraq. And he and I kind of stayed in contact through social media, whatever. And he reached out to me and he says, hey, man, he goes, we had an interpreter when we were there that we worked with a lot. And he had multiple deployments. After we redeployed back to Hood, the interpreter, obviously he lived in Iraq. He was Iraqi, and he just continued to work with whatever follow-on coalition forces that there were. And it wasn't long before, I think it was in 2012, 13-ish timeframe, that interpreter had the opportunity to bring him and his family to live in the United States. And the interpreter, at the time he was interpreting for us in 2004, 2005, the interpreter had a young son around 12 years old. And fast forward, now they're in the United States, and that 12-year-old becomes an adult, essentially, and joins the U.S. Army, and has been in the Army for several years, and obtained the rank of sergeant, is now looking at his ETS dates coming up here pretty soon. And so the guy that I served with, knows of this sergeant and has been communicating with him regularly. And so the guy I served with, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, man, he tells me the story. And he goes, he needs help with transition. He goes, do you have anything that, a resource or information, or what can you provide this guy to help him out? And I was just kind of was floored for a minute, because I'm like, I don't know. We got like 300 podcast episodes that all talk about essentially transition and how to be successful out when you're out. And he's like, yeah, I know, but like that's 300 episodes. That's like where do you start? And it really got me thinking. He's kind of got a point. We've got all this content. But where do you start? Like, how do you make sense of it? Where do you go first? And there's really nothing that kind of guides or walks anyone through what it is that we talk about. And so that's why the point of this new series in 2018, and if it takes the entire year to create it, then so be it. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, because it's really, I mean, there's tons of resources out there,
Right.
but unfortunately, they're kind of all wave tops.
Yeah.
It's like, and everyone's different.
Yep.
We understand that. But it's one of those things, like, this is why we have we have a lot of shit on transition that we haven't even released.
Right. Yep.
Things from like, I mean, like the epic blog post.
Right. Yeah.
We still haven't released that.
No, it's been almost a year and a half, right?
Right. But the lessons are still going to be the same.
Yeah. So it's
like you take tools like that and put that into the stratosphere.
Right.
It makes a difference.
So that's what we're going to do. That's what I'm working on. It's going to be a transition boot camp. It's going to take you through step by step from, we're calling it, T minus 12 months. So 12 months prior to getting out, T minus
cradle to grave, baby.
T minus 6 months, we'll call it T day, right? Instead of D day, T day, transition day. And then T plus 6 months, T plus 12 months, T plus 2 to 4 years, and then 2 plus 5 years and beyond. And it's kind of, that way you can it's almost like a series that will have chapters. And I don't know how many episodes that will end up being, but I think it's going to be beneficial. That way, when people in the future say, hey, man, I know you got 300 plus episodes, where do I begin? That will be the series that we will draw people to. And then we'll be referencing, other shows that we've already created, like, Dwayne's, series.
We kind of did. And we did a short series on transition.
Yeah, we did.
Before,
yeah.
but again, it was wave tops,
right.
And that's not what the community needs.
Exactly. So that's it. And then my last one is my last prediction. You'll love this one. It's very specific. Something big and unexpected will happen in 2018.
Thank you, horoscope bastard.
Yes.
Gemini, you will have great things happen in your life. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yes.
Well, my last thing is basically it comes down to production value. We're up in our game.
Yeah.
And spending some money. A little bit, yeah. A little bit of extra money. Like things like we're recording this now on Zoom instead of Skype. Because I'm paying for it.
Right.
And I think it's worth it because it does matter.
Yep. Your
sound quality matters. And stuff like that. And then that's where I was going with it is hopefully BattleSight Technology will be a funding arm for Change Your POV.
Yeah, man. We'll be able to...
That's basically what it comes down to. Along with the sponsors, which, you already talked about.
Yep. And I'm just excited. I'll be able to color my naked body with IR crayons.
Yes. Or regular.
Yeah, or regular.
You don't need IR.
Yeah.
You don't really need IR. Yeah. So we're starting with IR, but I think we're also starting with green.
Regular green?
It's the easiest color to make.
Yeah. That's very cool.
But anyway.
I'm excited, man. More to follow on that, I guess, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Shit's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yep. So right now it's a packaging thing. We're getting it in February. We'll be getting the actual product to special operations units.
So you heard the I think that's where Serial started. Is that series called Startup? It's very meta, right? It was a guy, I forget.
Yeah.
Had a series about creating a podcast network is basically what it was.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like his behind the scenes, like step through all the. How cool of a series would that be if you and Nick were to do a series on BattleSight Technologies? And just, periodically just do like a, whether it's an in-person recorded conversation on a telephone, just kind of, I don't know, just like, you guys are starting a business and you're entrepreneurs and you've got successes and you got failures and progresses and setbacks. And I just think it would be really kind of cool to get a fly on the wall look on that. Yeah. I don't know. Just throwing it out there, man.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know. I don't know how much you want to, divulge or You know, how much you want to.
Well, I think we just need another. Yeah, it might be another month or two before we could even start doing something like that. Just because of where there's some intellectual property stuff that needs to be hashed out, and patented and whatnot, trademarked, and things before we go like balls out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
right?
Because I still got to keep my pants on.
Okay, all right, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's all part of the whole thing is, there's got to be some secrecy to an extent on some of these things that you do, because not because I don't want to share the information. I just can't do it yet. Right. And what part of I think that's a great idea, because one of the tools that we've used could really kind of change the game for people that are ready to execute, that are ready to execute and start a fucking kick-ass business, either selling to the military or selling to the public at large with technology that's just like, you're like, man, I've thought about that, but I didn't know someone actually developed.
Was that a
a
Kickstarter campaign? Is that what you're talking about?
No. It's
well, isn't that how you start every successful business? Come on.
Yeah, not nowadays.
Kickstarter.
Holy hell. Kickstarter. Put it on Indiegogo. People will definitely fund that.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anybody out there that is trying to start
for the right product, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
For the right product.
How many Indiegogos or Kickstarter campaigns do you know of that have been successful? I mean, really?
Well, it's a microcosm of business in general.
Yeah.
Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean anybody wants to buy it. And that's the truth. Yeah. Especially with product stuff. Just because it's a badass product truly doesn't mean that people want to buy it. Like, they might go, wow, that's badass, but I'm not paying $129.95.
Exactly, right.
Because that's what it's going to cost you to make it. Figure out a way to do it cheaper or outsource that shit. You know what I mean? So it's a microcosm of real businesses that Kickstarter campaigns, probably 5% of them actually succeed.
Nothing against Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I'm just saying.
No, it's got nothing to do with them. It's got to do with the people coming up with the ideas.
I think it's expectations too, right? Everybody thinks
it's also a great way. Think about that, though, Eddie. Think about what you're talking about. Great way to do market research, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo doesn't cost you a shit.
Right.
I mean, it costs you your time and effort to make a badass video and figure it out and make your product, right? But that right there's market research. If you put that out and
nobody wants it,
get crickets, nobody wants it.
Yeah, saying something. There
you go.
Right?
There you go. Maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and retweak it, or maybe things only get partially funded. You know what I mean? And then you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because you get some of those things. It's like, why? You can get that information. What does this need? What needs to be different for this to be better? Right. And then you move on.
Some people are like, why in the world do people not want a veteran t-shirt company? I don't understand why I'm failing at this.
Because there's 6,000 of them, which really doesn't matter, frankly.
Yeah.
The reason that there's 6,000 doesn't matter, but come up with an original idea.
It's like, what are you like? Instead of being better, how are you different? Ooh, that's a prelude into our probably one of our earlier 2018 shows with Christopher Lockhead. Yes, that's going to be
not about being better. It's about being different.
That's going to be a great show. That was such a great show until you passed the fuck out, bro.
I had a fucking
dude, I can't believe you passed the fuck out on that in the
middle
middle
of
our interview.
It would be one thing. It'd be one thing if I could say, it was because I was so drunk or whatever, but that was like an actual medical issue.
You were like, I was like, should we call 911? Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, done. Out. Went to the doctor the next day. My blood work was a fucking mess.
Christopher's like, hey, Bennett. He's like, hey, Eddie, I think we lost him.
Yeah, no shit.
But
Chris is a great dude,
we could
man.
see him. He's sitting right there, like eyes closed, like drooling on himself. It was awful.
Yeah, It was awful.
Awful.
Awful. It was almost like very surreal because it's like I could hear you, but it's like I couldn't respond.
Like you were in a fucking coma.
It had like a goddamn seizure or something. No, it turns out, folks, that I had some kind of like blood sugar something.
Blood sugar crash or something?
Yeah, blood sugar crash or something like that. At least that's what they say. But
well, next
knows? I haven't had it. I did have a little episode a few days later too, which you and I never talked about. But
well,
it wasn't quite as bad. But so
if we ever get an opportunity,
what it was is frankly, it's because I was doing some intermittent fasting as well. And so there's that, and I don't necessarily get along. Not yet, because I have to lose more weight and it's anyway, there's a whole science thing behind it. But,
well, if we ever get an opportunity to interview Christopher again, make sure you bring a Snickers along.
I will bring a Snickers along. Make sure I put some applesauce in my pocket. Shit, it was crazy.
That's going to be a good show. Anyway. It was a long show, but it was going to be a good one.
Yeah, I called him the next day and we talked about it, and he was just laughing. And I'm like, yeah, man, that was some weird shit. And of course it happens to happen with like one of the best interviews that we've ever done. Right. You know what I mean? Just bizarre. But we had already talked for almost an hour and a half at that point. Right. Yeah. So it was crazy. But anyway, it's a good way to end it. Hey, Bennett's passed the fuck out. Maybe we should end this thing.
Yeah. I think it's time to go. We talked him to death, literally.
Literally. His ass is dying over there.
Oh, fuck.
Ooh, man.
All right. Well, Happy New Year, bro.
Thanks. You too, man.
So
say hi to the family.
We'll do so. And we'll get this thing up and rolling.
Don't freeze your ass off too bad.
No, you either, huh? And don't fucking get in a goddamn car wreck on the way to the school bus a block away from your house.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, the school bus, they pick them up right at the end of the thing. So that'd be horrible. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, man.
Right. Love your body.
Love yours.
All right, man. Peace. Oh, should we do an outro?
It's up to you. You could add it later.
I'll do a quick outro. I can't believe we haven't done this for so long. I forgot how to fucking.
I know you forgot.
All right, folks. You can find all the show notes for this episode by heading over to changeyourpov.com/EP201. That's episode 201 of Change Your POV podcast. And yeah, man, never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. And hey, folks, Happy New Year. If you want to give us a New Year's gift, we know exactly how you can do that. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a rating and review and let us know what you think of the show. That would be fantastic moving into 2018. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to grab some of those, Bennett, and start reading some of those at the top of the show coming up pretty soon.
Like it.
All right, man. Happy 2018.